Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today we got a little bit of a different issue. We have read a couple different stories of the same story. There's different versions, I'll say.
This is our first. We're doing a versus series. We've got a head-to-head comics of the same story.
Yeah, I don't know. This might be our only one.
Might be. Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know if it's a series or just a single one, but every now and then, if we find something cool that's like the same story, just told by a different person or in a different comic, maybe we'll do head-to-heads of them or whatever. I do know that there's lots of Conan stories that do that because there's the old Marvel series, there's the old Dark Horse series, and the new Cimmerian series, and the new Marvel series as well. So there's lots of ones you could pick from the same stories and then see how they do them differently. So, yeah. But this one was specifically, I picked it because me and John had read this Frost Giant's Daughter story for an old podcast. Maybe like, what was it? It would have been episode 7 or something.
Yeah, one of the first 10.
Of the first 10. And then it got corrupted. So I lost the audio for it. So we stopped that. And then we were like, hey, let's do God in the Bowl instead. And that one is like number 10 or something.
Yeah,
I think it is number 10. God in the Bowl is number 10. So,
that was a fun story too. I remember.
Yeah. So that is volume 2 of the Dark Horse run. So I was like, you know what? I read the Cimmerian, which is a new indie comic company series, because Conan, if you don't know, is starting to fall into the public domain. So slowly, over the next couple of years, we will see more comics coming out that are actually involving different characters besides Conan, who they can use his name in the comic, but they can't use his name on the title because Marvel has that trademarked or something. So they get to call it the Cimmerian, who that's the race of people Conan is. And then, but they can still tell some of the old original stories. So I think it was everything that was, copywritten in 1939 or 29, whenever the fuck he was writing. I think it was 29.
Yeah.
29 and 20. No, 29 and 30, I guess. That would have been what it was because would have been 2019 and 2020.
Yeah.
So. Or it might be 19. Maybe it was 1919. I don't fucking know. Whenever he was writing these damn stories.
Yeah, the copyright's like, what is it? It's like 90 to 100 years, something like that.
Yeah, unless you're Disney, and then you can just fucking do whatever.
Yeah, then they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we're.
I think it's supposed to be 70 years or something, or 80, like a lifetime. Like, okay, 80 years, you're dead already, so then it's done. But then Disney's like, no, we want our mouse to be copyrighted longer than that. So.
Yeah, I can't even begin to understand the way that they're weaseling their way through.
I don't know. They found backdoor channels or something.
Yeah.
But Robert E. Howard did not find backdoor channels. He died very young. So so his stuff is starting to fall into public domain. And so we're getting all these different versions, and I read the Cimmerian version of The Frost Giant's Daughter, and I was like, oh my God. This is one of the best tellings of this. And it just, okay, not only is the art amazing, the writing's really good, and the story's really good, and it's just as I think if Robert E. Howard read that, he's like, "This is how my story should have been." like I feel like this is what he wanted. Like because if you know anything about Robert E. Howard stories, they're all pulpy. It's about a strong man who likes busty women and is an adventurer or whatever. So like that's as long as it follows that story, and I feel like he might be ashamed of. Or what's it called? Embarrassed about how forward the Cimmerian is, because they don't pull any punches.
Nope.
These comics are not for children. They are very much adult-rated comics. It even says the uncensored Conan comics on, or the uncensored Robert E. Howard stories. So like basically they take Robert E. Howard's suggestive stories that are somewhat descriptive, where they're like, her milky skin and like the sumptuous blah, blah, blah. Like he's using language to show it. Well, in this, they just show it. Yeah. And and I feel like, it lives up to his memory. I think he'd be proud. So, but first we're going to go through the Dark Horse run because it is a very good story. Also amazing art, also amazing writing. It's just a little different and a little bit more tame.
Tamer, yeah.
I would give this to a 13-year-old, this original series. It would be perfect age, I think. Hey, check out Conan. If you like hair that's strategically placed over certain nipples and stuff. So
Wow.
So it's like a suggestive comic. I would give it to like a 13-year-old or something, but maybe that's just me. I don't know. Your mileage might vary, but I mean, if you read comics in the 90s, I mean, we're talking nothing worse than that.
No, they're all very voluptuous, but they just have extra pockets and pouches.
What do you mean? Oh, in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, and those pouches covered specific areas.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
You're like, oh, she has a bandolier. Just right in the perfect area.
Just crossing out her areolas.
Yeah.
So
yeah, basically.
So yeah, that's what it would be in the 90s, and this is continued. We have Carrie Nord on the art on this and Kurt Busiek writing. And this was just to make it more confusing for everybody about how many Conan series there are. This was from the Dark Horse run in the mid-2000s. This is issues 1 and 2 of that series. It is now owned by Marvel because they got the copyright back. So now Marvel's publishing it under their name, and it's called, what's it called?
Conan Chronicles.
The Conan Chronicles books by Marvel. And so all you want to look for is the date, which is 2000. I believe it started in 2004, maybe, or 2003. And then it is written by Kurt Busiek and the art is by Carrie Nord. So just in case you're looking for which ones we're talking about, and it's issues 1 and 2 of that series. And so we start off in the frozen wastelands up north above where the Cimmerian's from, where Conan comes from, I guess. And he is already on his path. He has left his people, as he explains later on, his people are normally not travelers. They like to stay in their, stone, mountainous, tree-filled areas or whatever, but with the hard ground and everything. And they're black-haired people, we should also say, because hair means a lot in this
yeah,
comic,
yeah, very much
in this
hair
world.
is, yeah.
Hair color means a lot in this world. It's basically the races of, like, once you get above the north, where, like, everybody's white or whatever in this area, they're like, all right, okay, you fucking brown hair.
Yeah, now we have to judge you from your hair colors.
We're going to get racist based on hair. All right, so Conan being of brown or black hair is disgusting. One of those people.
Yeah.
And then, so he comes up north because his grandpa was a traveler, apparently, a very weird, Cimmerian. And he would travel, and he told Conan of all these adventures of wine and busty ladies, and Conan's like, that sounds very good.
Yeah.
And so...
And there was one place he never got to that he wanted to see. It was supposed to be one of the greatest places.
Yeah, and it's called Hyboria. It is up very, very north.
Far north, yeah.
It is even like a fake society sounding where there's like these people are immortal, and they have infinite amount of wine and booze, and then when they get so bored, they just jump off into the heavens and soar away in the wind or whatever. Yeah. And it's a very like mythical tale he's got in his head from his grandfather, or from whatever stories he's heard. But so that's why he's up north. He's trying to get to Hyboria, but now he's in the land of the Aesir and the Vanir, who are, for all intents and purposes, Vikings. We're going to say there's orange-haired Vikings, which are the Vanir, and there are yellow-haired Vikings, which are the Aesir.
Aesir, yeah. Aesir, yeah. Eesir.
Yeah, we'll say it's like the Nordic, and then it'd be Swedish.
Yeah,
like they're the same people, but not the same people.
Yeah.
Like they're separated by a couple miles.
Yeah, there's a border, and then
there's a border of snow and trees, and then then for some reason this tribe has orange hair. So they're of course what are these people? Yeah, these crazy redheads.
Yeah, redheaded stepchild.
Yeah,
village. We don't like them.
Yeah, so they are at war, and we start off in, like we said, in this frozen wasteland. This woman is running away. She has blonde hair, so we know she is of the Aesir, and she's running from a Vanir red hair, this vicious red-haired man, and he's trying to. He literally says, she's running for her life, she's crying and she's running with a baby in the snow, barefoot and everything. And he's like, I'm going to rape you and I'm going to smash your baby's head in the meantime.
It's horrible.
Yeah, like I'm going to kill your kid and then I'm going to rape you and, and that's what's going to happen. So he's not a very nice person. But these are, old school times. These are Vikings, like we said, basically. And so he gets her to the ground, and as he's about to kill her baby, I guess, he's got his hand raised, and like you said, he's on top of her, but he looks like he might be about to punch the baby in the face.
Yeah.
Conan chops off his head with this big-ass longsword. This is a fucking fantastic shot.
Yeah.
Like, Conan's just like, ah! And like, the sword has already gone through the dude's head. And I will say, Carrie Nord is a painter. So he's got a very specific, very cool style.
Oh, yeah.
The way he paints is very fucking amazing. Like, it's like he shows detail where it needs to be, and then otherwise he doesn't. Like, so the blood is not very detailed, but it's just red everywhere. And then, like, you see the muscles and the shadow and everything, but, like, where there's not detail, there's shadow or clothes. And I don't know. He's got a very, very cool style. I always like it because, like, if you're far enough away that I wouldn't be able to see your expression, it's just kind of fuzzy painting colors. And then if you're close to me, he's got every vein and every vessel and every eye movement and everything in there. So I like it a lot the way his thing is. But he draws a very ferocious, or he paints a very ferocious Conan. I like his art a lot. This was one of the first series I was like, whoa, that's some cool art. You're like, in the 90s, I didn't realize how much I love those 90s artists like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld and everything. Yeah. Those have a special place in my heart just because that is what was cool when I was growing up. But, this is one of the first series I read. Like, I think Hellboy and this were me going like, whoa.
Well, there's different.
These are fucking cool artists, like these are really cool people. So I love the way he draws, but basically what's going on is the Vanir have attacked an Aesir village while the Aesir are out, like, for war. I guess they set a trap where the village would be unprotected. It's just old people, women, and young boys or whatever, or young kids in the village. And so that is what is going on. And they're basically burning the whole village down of the Aesir. And so Conan comes in and he starts murdering people. He just sees a village bird. He's like, oh, I'll help out, whatever. So he starts killing all these people attacking the village. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, who's this brown hair? Who's this brown hair guy? What the fuck is he? He's not an Acer. And they're like, but we'll still kill him. And he just takes on all these fuckers. He just starts cutting arms. I love this too. He cuts off arms and it's not like detail violent, or it's not detail gore or whatever, but you just see like a red area with like a bone in it, so it looks like a steak. It looks like a cartoon steak. I just love the way that he draws like people getting their arms cut off and stuff. But so yeah, he's taking on like 4 guys at once. He's killing them all, no problem. And then all of a sudden, when they're about to like they're like, hey, we should all attack him at once. Basically, the Aesir show back up and like, what the fuck? Our village. And they're like pissed off. They see Conan after the red hairs ran away, and they're like, hey, this guy was with them. We should kill him and like, show him why you don't stick around a village you burned down and murdered a bunch of people for. And like basically the woman that he saved is trying to like, vouch for him, but she's not letting him, or they're not letting her talk, kind of thing.
Yeah. Her name. Well, I would say her name is Henga.
Henga, yeah. And she's important later on, but I liked that. Basically, she's like, my savior, and they're like, whatever. Like he was a killer, wasn't he? And they're just like, they're gonna take, they're gonna like, hang him or whatever, or kill him, or try to do that. And they like spit on him and stuff. And then he like takes I guess it's the husband of.
I couldn't tell if it was a husband if they're just like together.
Well, it's like
I guess
it's
supposed to be husband, yeah.
But yeah, what's her name again?
Her name is Henga, and his name is Sajar. Sajarl. SJARL.
I think it's Sarl.
Sarl?
Because
the J would be
J's a
silent.
Y or whatever.
That's right.
Sarl.
Sarl. That's
so
my bad.
Carl. Yeah, it's Sarl or Sjarl.
Ciarl.
So Sjarl.
Ciarl.
It's
There
the
we go.
easiest name to
There
say. It's not. There's a lot of fun names in this one. So.
He gets punched in the face real good.
Let's just say Conan beats the fuck out of him, and it's like, who else? And then two guys try to hold Conan back, and he just throws them, like around, and then he's like, who wants to fucking die first? And then the chieftain is like, hold on, what's going on? And he's like, I came here, I'm fucking Conan, I saved your women, and this is how you treat me? And they're like, oh, we thought you were terrible because you have brown hair or whatever. We didn't realize you weren't with the red hairs, because what kind of person would be with the red hairs but a brown hair, you know? And so so they prejudged him, they were judging, they were being prejudiced is what they were doing.
Yes.
And so then the woman is like, yeah, you fucking idiots, I'm trying to tell you, he saved me and the baby and everything, and no thanks to you guys. Yeah, and the rest of our village that at least was around and not dead yet. So she's like, thank you, kind sir. And so they're like, hey, you're a warrior. Thanks for, doing that. And you can stick around and we'll feed you and stuff. He's like, well, I'm not going to be here long, but I'll stay for the night.
I'll stay for some food.
Yeah, I'll stay for some food, So he sits around, and this is where he gets his backstory about why he's like, because they're like, oh, Cimmerians don't usually go outside their land. He's like, oh,
he's like,
grandpa,
my grandfather. And
blah, blah, blah. What word he said. And so they're like, oh, it's very interesting. Like, we know of Hyboria. We could show you the way or whatever when you want to. But also they're like, why would you want to go there? That's fucking terrible. And then he's like, oh, no, I feel like it'll be cool or whatever. So he doesn't, maybe they know something that he doesn't know, but he tells them his version of Hyboria, and then they show what the Hyborians look like to them, and they're just kind of like a war, like a very tall warmongering kind of people or whatever. But his version is like, oh, they're nice, peaceful, like immortals that just live on milk and honey and live forever and all that stuff. So,
deep within the pleasure dome.
yes, exactly.
Decreed by Kubla Khan.
Kubla Khan. And so yeah, then we get the husband of Hanga. What was his name again? Sjarl.
Ciarl.
So Sjarl is like, he goes to his hut. He's like, Hanga, come on, babe. I don't want to sleep outside. And she's not in her tent, in the hut. And he's like, what the fuck? And then he looks, and she's running out back of the hut. And he's like, what? And he follows her. And Hanga, she's getting herself some Conan.
She's like, oh man, these big strong muscles and this black hair.
I mean, they show him kissing her, but I think they went further than that, because they just cut to the next day. And I think he got a little bit more than a kiss, if you know what I mean.
I mean, he's Conan. So
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, and he saved her and her baby.
That's
and
true.
made her husband look like an idiot. So, basically they're like, hey, why don't you? We're gonna go attack those yellow-haired bastards. No, the red-haired bastards. So why don't you come with us? And it's on the way to Hyboria, so we'll kill them and then take you there. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
He's like, oh yeah, sure, I'm down for a fight.
Yeah. So he gets all armored up. He got his classic horned helmet from the old series, the old Marvel series, and he's got a bunch of extra armor. He's not sure about, because normally Cimmerians they fight light. They like to move. They like movement. And he's like, it'll do. I'll work with it, I guess. But he's got all this fur and everything on him. And so they go to attack these veneer people who are red-haired. And then the second issue starts, and we see the battle has already started. It is already going on. And basically, there's only two men left in this battle. There is Heimdall, who is the warrior, the king, or the warrior of... was it?
I guess you would say the leader of
the leader of this war. He's a war chief, I guess, or whatever, of this veneer, right? These red-haired Northmen or whatever. And so and there was only two people left. Like we said, it's him and Conan. And so they're fighting, and they're talking to each other. We see basically Heimdall's like, tell me your name, sir, so that I may tell my brothers who was the last person on the battle. And he's like, you can tell fucking Satan what, you can tell your brothers in heaven or hell or whatever, in Valhalla.
Yeah, in Valhalla.
where that you fought Conan. They're saying no, you're gonna die. No, you're gonna die. No, you're gonna die. They're just going back and forth. Then they start fighting, and like Heimdall gets a good helmet hit on him, but it doesn't pierce his helmet. It actually breaks his sword, and Conan's able to stab Heimdall right into the fucking heart and kills him right away. So then he's the last one on the battlefield. He starts getting kind of woozy, now that the battle's over. His adrenaline's wearing off, we'll say, and he got hit in the head. He's also seeing all this gore around and stuff. So he's like, okay, I'm kind of getting sick a little bit, but then he kind of passes out for a second, falls in the snow, and then he looks up because he sees something. And what does he see? This beautiful
pale skin,
ivory skinned woman or whatever. Like not like white.
It's white. It's like bluish, icy,
icy white, like a clear. I don't know what way to say it, but like almost as if like a grayish ice or something,
Yeah.
But it's like sparkly, and she's naked. She's half naked in this, but like in both, one she wears like a loincloth, but then the top is she's topless, I'll say.
Yeah.
And in this one, the hair is
strategically placed.
Yes. So the red hair, she's got red hair, and Conan's like, "What are you, one of these veneer, wenches or something?" And she's like, "I am not, like,
I am no veneer temptress."
Yeah. And so she's like saying, like she's kind of teasing him, and they're talking for a bit, and she's like, "Well, why don't you come on? You think you can get me? You think you can? You deserve this right here?" And she's like, starts kind of showing her body off to him, and he's like, "What's going on?" And but it says his gaze went again to her unruly looks, which at first glance he had thought to be red, but now he sees her hair is like a dazzling like mix of red and yellow, and it's like elfin gold, it says. So like basically she just looks like a goddess, basically, is what he's like. She looks of this world.
Yeah.
Like not of this world.
Basically, so, his pulse is starting to rage in his temples.
Yeah.
Only.
In his temples. Yeah, well, I'm sure the blood is not flowing anywhere else, because he just gets in a rage. And basically what this is he is, she's a siren, basically. She's trying to call him into the depths of the snow. And by doing that, she is making him incredibly horny. And so he is in a horny rage now. That he was in a battle rage earlier, which is probably close to a horny rage.
Probably similar.
Yeah, your sword is is what's hard in that moment, but but in this moment it's a different sword we're talking about. And so he basically just starts to go after her after she kind of tempts him and says, "Are I not beautiful? Why don't you come try to get me or whatever? Follow me, And so he tries to get her, and every time he tries to get her, she's just like out of reach. Just a little bit out of reach.
One thing I really like about this is, so Conan is wearing not only obviously the heavy armor, but like, he's kind of the big bulkier of a man. So like as he's going to like try to reach her, he has to tread through the snow, and
she's walking on top of
is like ever so lightly walking on top, like barely even an impression, if that.
Yeah, so she's literally like
she's like, it's really cool. I really like how it was done.
Yeah, and so that makes him like slower than her always, and he's falling down, and she's like, "Oh, you clumsy lummox," and like, but just teasing him and trying to get him to follow her. And I will say sometimes the hair isn't always strategically placed in this one, but they don't have enough detail to really matter or whatever. So it's just kind of anatomically looking correct, but it's not exactly. There's no detail on anything. So that's why I said, you could show a kid, like a 13-year-old this. Someone who's had health class.
Yeah.
You could show this to them, and they'd be fine. But yeah, so she just keeps teasing him and taunting him until she just runs him so far into the snow. He's like miles away now from where he was in the battle. She's going over hills and valleys and everything and mountains till she gets to this one point where he's like, and he's saying like he's like, "This is a trap, isn't it?" Like,
yeah, you better not lead me to a trap.
If you lead me to a trap, I will fucking kill you. And like I'll take more than what you think I'm going to take. What like
yeah, it's a little.
He is. I mean, he's getting rapey, but I mean, once again, we had a hard time talking about this the first time we talked about it, like 2 years ago when we did it. But basically, he's getting rapey, but because she's making him rapey.
Yeah.
So like I mean, while I'm sure he's like,
Did you see what she was wearing? I'm kidding, but it's literally nothing.
Literally, she is saying, "Look at my tits. Don't
Yeah.
you want this? You want this? Come get it, big boy," or whatever. And he's like,
Yeah,
all right.
She is, like you said, she is playing the role of the siren of like, look
Yeah,
at my.
this is some weird.
I am
magic,
tempting. I am
magic
tempting you
what's
for
happening.
sex.
Yeah,
So,
and
like,
so
this
that
is-
you will be killed. So
Yeah.
she was literally magically tempting him, I believe. So
Yeah.
because it is magical. Because later on, we learn like, oh, he hasn't gone that far, or it wasn't like 2 nights or whatever and stuff. So, but yeah, in this, he's like, she's leading him, and she gets to this part where there's kind of like a cleft in an ice mountain or whatever, a glacier maybe, and all of a sudden 2 giants pop out. They have tusks and they are very large, and they also have the same color skin and red hair and everything. We find out he's like, what is this? These are her brothers. We're actually like the children of Ymir, the frost god up there. He's a giant.
Frost
himself.
giant god.
And these are the frost giant's kids, and that's the frost giant's daughter that was teasing him. So we have they have a thing. They have the the classic, she leads them to this place, and then they kill him, and then what they do is they feed a warrior's heart to their dad, because like. That it's deserving of this god's meal or whatever kind of thing. It's supposed to be an honor, but obviously Conan don't want to die.
Yeah.
You don't want to die, so it ain't an honor when you don't want to die. And so, so she's like, brothers, have at him, take his heart and feed it to our fathers. And he's like, fuck this, like this fucking bitch. Like, he just automatically cuts this one of them's legs off, or like cuts them really deep. Where like the femoral artery is cut for sure. This thing is dying. It leans over like as it like falls from the pain, and then the other brother, they both have axes. The other brother like swings at him but misses because Conan's smaller and is able to dodge it, and he just like gets on one of the mountain sides, and then like he climbs up it real fast because Cimmerians are able to climb very well because they're from the mountains.
Yeah, they feel like they're like parkouring up the sides.
Yeah, they're kind of like goats.
There
the
you go.
goats in the mountains. They are literally like that. When Conan in later stories is able to climb towers that have like glass smooth sides because he's like, I feel the crevices even though there's like nothing.
There's like nothing. Yeah.
He's like, but when you're like a Cimmerian, we can climb anything. So that's very much in Conan lore. He can climb anything. So he goes up this ice cliff and then jumps and fucking cuts this other frost giant, or the frost giant's head almost off. I think it just slits his throat, and then it's just her. And he's like, and now, girl. And she's like, no, you can't have. And he's like, I want my hearts, or you want hearts, witch? I'll give the rest of your brothers to you. And she's like, no. And he starts chasing her because now she's like, this ain't a regular man.
Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah.
This is fucking Conan. And he starts, basically the lust is still in his heart. And he's trying to grab her now. He grabs her like loincloth off. So now she's like completely naked. And then he's like about to grab her like fully, and she cries out to Ymir. She says, "Father, help me!" And we see this lightning bolt come down and take her, and like she vanishes, and he kind of like falls down because it like hits him a little bit, and basically she is saved, but he's there, he's passed out.
I love this page. It really looks like almost like a stained glass paste.
Ooh, that would be cool. I want that stained glass. Yeah, it'd be cool because it looks like she's like getting hit by this beam, and so is he. And it looks like it's the ice, but it looks like the clouds, kind of like in Michelangelo's God and David, or God and Man or whatever. And so they're not touching fingers though, but but it's Ymir's laser coming down or whatever, his lightning bolt, and 2 figures getting hit by it, and then Conan just falls asleep or whatever, and then he's woken up by the Aesir who find him, and they're like, what's going on? Why did you leave the battle like after you won and just like walk into the wilderness? Like, you're so far out here. And he's like, I saw a woman. And they're like, woman? And then one of the older guys is like, you saw her too? That's Atali, the daughter of Ymir. I saw her when I was a boy, when I was in battle, and I thought it was a dream or whatever because I'd been hit in the head, but I saw her, her red hair and her skin, and I heard her singing and all this stuff. So, like, basically, he gets proved right, but then also he gets proved right because he's like, I don't know. They're like, no, it's just he got hit in the head, and he's like, I don't know. And then he looks down and he's got her her like loincloth in his
hand still. Yeah, it's
so
like clutched in his hand.
it fucking was there. So yeah, like basically Conan confirms his story by showing that no, here it is. I have her loincloth in my hands. You can look at it. It's there. This was on her parts, right? And so, yeah, they don't ever say what happens to that loincloth, but I like to think the old man just took it and had it for himself. And
No, Conan kept, he rolled it up and put it in his bag. It's like,
he rolled it up for good luck or whatever?
yeah.
When he's lonely, he just looks at it. And,
it's like the one that got away.
Yeah. There you go. But yeah, so that is the end of this one. There's only 2 issues long. It's nice and short, and very well drawn, very well concise and to the point. And then we get the Cimmerian version, which
so going into this, I just want to say, so like again, we had read that one, so that was more of a refresher. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I remember the story now. That's neat. I'm like, okay, and the art again is fantastic. So like, yeah, let's get into the Cimmerian and
so this was the first
Cimmerian. I'm so sorry, I did it anyway.
He's gonna call it the Cimmerian every now and then.
Yeah,
so, just for fun, just to piss off all the Robert E. Howard fans out there.
Yes,
but it's the Cimmerian.
The Cimmerian,
and so he. Once again, we said this is. It says Robert E. Howard's Savage Hero Uncensored on the top of this comic, and this is the Frost Giant's Daughter. This is the first one I picked up in the store because I was like, I like Conan, Uncensored, Frost Giant's Daughter.
Okay,
cool. And then like the cover. We said the one that was in the shops was by Peach Momoko, which is like a weird one because the Frost Giant's Daughter looks like she's 12. But in other covers that they have, she looks much more grown up and voluptuous, and so much more age appropriate.
Much more like true Conan feel.
Yeah, exactly. And this is by, we should say, Robin Recht. I don't know if man or woman or whatever. I don't know, but they are very, very good at art, and they also wrote this. And I liked the writing style. This is actually from the point of view of the Frost Giant's Daughter.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. It gives you a lot more insight into how the religion is of her and everything. They even talk about how fucking humans were born and all that stuff. So it was very cool that like they researched that. And then just the art is fantastic in this book. And like it's very gritty when it needs to be, but it's very pretty as well when it needs to be. I don't know, it fits in very well to this story. And I have to say, I mean, I love Cary Nord's version of Conan, but goddamn, he makes Conan look so badass in this. Same with Heimdall. Heimdall looks so badass in this comic. But basically, we start off with the Frost Giant's Daughter. She's looking onto this battlefield, like the battle that's about to happen. She kind of gives it we kind of miss all that early stuff from the last comic where Conan, was with these Vanir and Aesir and they're fighting and all that. So we cut to, I guess Conan is on the battlefield fighting, but these Aesir that are trying to find the Vanir, they got ambushed. They are just recovering from the ambushment before Conan and the couple people were left to fight that battle.
It seems. I think they're tracking Heimdall at this.
Yes, but these are I think these guys have just got
they're the ones
ambushed,
that just got ambushed,
and that's why they're killing. They won the battle of this ambush, but Conan's already forward with another group.
Gotcha.
They were supposed to catch up with them and then take on Heimdall, but they did not come. So that's why Conan and his people all got killed except Conan. And so, but yeah, so this is the group that has just been ambushed and they won that ambush, but they are they're torturing one of the Vanir, who's, like we said, redheaded. They keep that. The redheads are Vanir and the Aesir are blonde. And so they're like cutting this guy up. And he's like, fuck you, dogs. You go, by the time you catch up with Heimdall, all your people will be dead. And he'll fucking take your head and piss on your faces or whatever, on your corpses. And they're like, oh, you like piss, huh? And I like this. This set the tone. They're like, oh, well, you like piss? And they just start pissing on him, which I was like, holy shit. Like,
yeah,
and then they,
right away.
And then they leave him, because they've cut him up a bunch. They've left him for their wolves to eat. So they let their wolves eat the rest of him as he's still alive, which is pretty fucking metal.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
like you said, setting the tone right away.
yes. So then we cut to, like we said, the Frost Giant's daughter. She is looking over the area that is the battlefield of Conan. So she kind of sees all, I would imagine, like what's coming up. That's how she kind of knew that. But she's looking directly at the battlefield, and she's all hot for Heimdall. She's like, finally, a warrior worthy of my father. You know, my father will eat his heart today. Heimdall. He's like the first person in a very long time that's been like worthy of this honor or whatever. We also see that she's with two polar bears in this, two giant polar bears. Like we're talking, 10 times the size of a polar
at
bear.
least, yeah.
They look like they're as tall as a 3-story building and probably as large. And so
and they have some like I couldn't tell if they're like side like
yolks. They look like yolks, but I think
or
they're supposed to be tusks. I think they're tusks tied to their sides. So these are actually the brothers. His interpretation of the brothers in this are these two polar bears who have these giant tusks like tied to their shoulders, like over the backs of their necks, kind of thing. I think it's because in the book he says they have tusks. So I don't know if that's just how he wanted to show it.
It's really cool looking.
It is cool looking. I'll say that. So then she's overseeing this battle, and she's like we said, she's all in the Heimdall. She's like, Heimdall's gonna be great. I'm gonna taunt him after this, and he'll die and everything, and then we'll feed his heart to my dad. It'll be awesome. And then there's something else. She's like, what is this stranger? Like her brothers even talk to her like, no, there's someone else there that is better. And she's like, wait, who? And she's like, oh, this stranger. And she's like, yes, I hear it. Like his heartbeat, his pulse is so regular that I didn't even notice it because Conan's just murdering, and his resting heartbeat is just it's just a 60 BPM or whatever, like he's not hard, he doesn't have a high pulse, he's not freaking out, he's just murdering, and that's where he's most at home. And so she's like, oh my god, this is the man, like this is the bear among wolves, this is a warlord. She gets really into Conan, talking about him, how like amazing she is.
He's young, massive. His muscles are powerful.
Yes, and she is very. It's almost like she's taken aback by someone so, like, amazing as a warrior.
Yeah,
and she's like, "This is it. This is what my dad needs for a heart." So she picks him. Of course, he's got to live past Heimdall because just like in the last comic, the last fight is between him and Heimdall, and so Heimdall he hasn't really been injured or anything, but he's just kind of like bloody from his murdering.
Yeah,
and his helmet's off. This is the coolest set of armor I've ever seen. Heimdall has, this is how big Heimdall is too, by the way. He has moose antlers for shoulder pads or braziers or
whatever,
shoulder braziers or whatever, like shoulder armor. His shoulder armor is fucking moose
antlers.
And they look proportional to him. That's how big Heimdall is. So Heimdall's like, why are you fighting with them? You're not even a fucking AC'er. Like,
I see your black hair.
Yeah, he's like, and he goes kind of says the exact same thing. Like, who should I tell my brethren was the last person on the battle? And once again, Conan's like, who should I tell? Or, you could tell the people in hell that you fought Conan. That's what you could say. And so they go off, like we said, on each other. And, fucking Conan as he walks up. We haven't really seen him. We've just seen, like, glimpses of him through, like, red. Like, we've seen his eyes.
That's one thing. Like, so the only art other than like the very beginning where it's showing the ambush, the battle art is really cool because it shows the Frost Giants are looking, and that's very detailed. And then as she looks at the battle, the art for the battle,
black. They're all shadows, but the red is blood spatter.
It's really cool.
Very cool. Yeah. So Conan in this, he walks up and he's coming through the windy snow or whatever, right? So. He's coming off the battlefield. You can see red, but he's in fucking furs, like fur armor from head to toe. He's got this giant fucking sword. Or is it an axe? I don't know. He's got
an axe and a sword.
He's got both. But he definitely has an axe. And he's got this helmet, and the fucking, unlike the horns on the other one, the horns are coming from the side, and they look so much fucking cooler.
It looks like the death
dealer.
Yes, death dealer.
Like
yes,
death
okay.
From Frazetta. So he looks like the death dealer from Frazetta. It's obviously a callback to that.
Yeah,
Frazetta is an amazing Conan artist. So obviously he's like, I'm gonna make him be basically this is Conan the Death Dealer. So
Yeah.
he looks so badass. I want that figure, by the way, if that ever happens. But he takes off his helmet. He's like, fuck it, I'll fight you without a helmet. And she's watching this battle like happy as ever. Like, oh my god, two warriors who are both deserving. But she wants Conan's heart because he was even more of a badass. And the first comic ends there, with like before the battle.
Yeah, right at the cliffhanger of them. About
So
to
then
rock.
we start off the second one. And like I said, all of these are very adult. So this is like where the real adult stuff starts. She is naked in the first one, but you don't see that much.
No, it's just you just kind of see the curves.
You see the curves. You might see, a little more detail than the other one on in the nipple region or whatever. But her hair doesn't always cover strategically what it was in the other one. But she always has like her skirt on or whatever, her loincloth. And so with this, we see Heimdall and her fighting. I'm sorry, Heimdall and Conan fighting. And she's like running down to the battlefield now because it's coming to an end. And this is where like, okay, she's like completely naked. The loincloth is see-through. So there's like, in this, there's not even really a reason.
Yeah, it was like, whoa.
For the loincloth. It's cheesecloth, all right?
Yeah, basically.
So she's just there. And this is interesting too, because what happens is Heimdall gets a good blow on Conan and like knocks him down, and you think, oh man, Heimdall's kicking ass, And then Conan, this is the most fucking hardcore thing. Conan gets stabbed with a spear in the leg by Heimdall as he's trying to do his killing blow. But Conan moves, the spear hits his leg, and he reaches up and grabs Heimdall's lower jaw and pulls it off of his face.
Yeah.
He pulls Heimdall's. Let me say that. He pulls Heimdall's lower jaw off of his face. This is like the mountain in fucking Game of Thrones or some shit. Like, he grabs his fucking jaw, beard and all, and rips it off of his face, like his whole lower jaw.
Yeah, that's how strong he is. And I love the one line as she's watching on all this is she's like, oh man, he's like a bear, in the den of wolves, and wolves shouldn't face bears.
Yeah, and she's like, for the first time, a thirst for life is stronger than his, like, than Heimdall's or than whatever. And like this is the first time anyone's been this much of a. She says, this brutal, this violent, this visceral. Like, this is exactly what I want for a heart. It's like perfect for my dad or whatever. Like, she's just so elated that this kind of a man exists.
Yeah,
and so he kills Heimdall, like puts a sword through his heart, and that's it, right? The battle's over. And then he turns around because he hears someone behind him. He's like, and he's like, a Vanir, because this woman has red hair, and he's looking at her. He's like, what are you? Where are your brothers? Are they here to like kill me or whatever? And she's like, oh, you say that because of my red hair, but I'm not one of them. And like they kind of have a back and forth. And basically, she just starts to taunt him, saying like, if you think you're so tough, like, why don't you come get me? I'm just a woman or whatever.
And,
so like,
yeah, and she knows who he is. She obviously heard everything and can see everything going on there.
Yeah,
and like so she's like,
And once again, she is naked, like see-through dress, naked. Everything's her breasts are completely out. So he's like, who is this naked lady? If you don't watch your mouth, like, because she's kind of like snipping off to him or whatever.
Yeah.
At first, and so it's not like at first it's just like a teasing, like, you think you're tough or whatever, and he's like, who are you, woman?
Yeah.
And
did you not just see me murder all of these people? Yeah.
And then he's like, look, you're fucking naked. Like, if you won't watch out, I'm a big guy or whatever. You're like,
something could happen.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's like not having that. She's like, oh, I'm sure Conan of Cimmerian. And she's like, basically, she just starts taunting him like crazy. She's bending over in front of him and everything. Like, look at all these. Look at all of this.
Yeah.
Like, she's going all out.
Do you like crawling in front of a woman warrior?
Yeah, like she's basically telling him, you're going to crawl in front of me because you want this so bad.
Yeah.
And so
this one is way more taunting and sexual.
Yeah,
for sure.
So she's like, come over here. And she like throws a snowball at his face. And so he just starts running at her. And very much so, like, he is getting more and more. I think he even get like at first it's just kind of he's mad that she's taunting him, but then obviously there is the like sexual, like she's awakening this weird, like she's weaving this weird sexual spell on him to make him like more and more follow her or whatever.
And the same thing, I love that he has to tread and like really cut through this deep snow, and she's just hopping along on top like a little bunny rabbit.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah, and like she's taking him, she says, to like her father's throne. He's walking through all these woods and everything, and he loses track of her at one point. And so he's like, fuck it, I'll find her tomorrow. And he starts yelling, I'll find you or whatever. And he's about to sleep under like a rock. And then she comes. He's like, oh, your fire won't take here, because he's trying to light a fire. And she's like, let's make a truce for tonight and sleep here. And we'll resume our game tomorrow. And he's like, what? If I catch you, or believe me, if I catch you, you won't sleep. Like he's going all out on this. And so, and then she's like, oh, really? Tell me what would happen. And he's like, basically, she's just teasing him. But they do come to like an agreement of like, okay, I'll stop chasing you. But the whole time she's there, she's like, she's looking at him, and he's like, you shouldn't play with men. And she's saying to her inner dialogue, I love this look. The look you had the same when you slaughtered Heimdall. Like, because he's like, it basically says like, he's looking at first at her face and says, the steel of his eyes pierces me as they slide towards my breast, and then slowly lower. And then, so, because like we said, she's completely naked. And yeah, basically he just like is becoming so lustful after her, but she's like making this desire rise in him like on purpose or whatever. And so then they, like we said, they call a truce. She lets him sleep that night or whatever, so she has that night. Then she wakes up, and the chase continues. They cut to like mid morning or whatever, and he's still trying to get her, and she's like, he's like, you're mine. And he even like at one time does get her, and she's like laughing. He's like, I warned you, woman. And then she just pops like almost as if she transported herself away from him like magically. He's like, what? Like, I had you. And she's like, no, you didn't. Like, and then she's like, once again, still like, she's like, you want these? And she's like,
it's very much.
Yeah. She's like showing her breasts, and then she's like, oh, is this what you're looking for? And she's bending over in front of him and everything. And he's like, I'm going to go crazy. And then she finally gets to the area that she wants to get him to, which is she calls it the Ord-Rorir. Very hard to say. Ord-Rorir, which is like, it says it's the cauldron of the world. It's where like the first men were taught to worship her father.
It's very
basically
sacred.
It's a sacred mountain. It's like a mountain peak. And so he finally gets to that place, and she's standing right in front of him. And he's like, finally, you're going to admit defeat or whatever. And she's like, no. And basically the whole mountain cracks open, and she says, like, would you go to hell for me? And he's like, what? And then she pushes him, and he falls in the crack, and then he falls down into like an icy water river, like in the middle of this mountain is like an icy lake, we'll say, a glacier lake.
Yeah, and he's like, witch. She's falling down. She's like, witch.
Goddess.
Yeah,
and then so he falls down, and then he falls in the ice, and he just there's just all these other bodies that have fallen in there, other men, other warriors, and they're all like dead and decaying and bones and everything. And she's saying like, I can feel your heart racing, your muscles tense, and she starts to feel herself.
Yeah, no, yeah,
she starts masturbating, and she's just like, I can see your fear, instinctive, visceral, and she's like, Conan, and she's calling out to him while she's masturbating, and he's like hearing this like in his head, and he's like, what? Like, it just makes him like come, like at first he's like, man, it's really cold in here, I don't know if I'm gonna, and then he's like hears her calling out to him, and it drives him so crazy. And then all of a sudden, it's like Harry Potter or some shit. These fucking things come alive, or like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
These dead bodies come alive that are in here and start trying to pull him down. And he's like, I'm killing all these fuckers.
Yeah, he takes off like all of his extra like armor underneath.
and
So
just
it
takes
doesn't
a
weigh him
sword
down?
and cuts them down. And then he's running up because he's hearing her yell, "Conan, come!" And like while she's masturbating, and like they don't pull any punches. They're showing everything. I mean, not everything, but I mean they're showing what she's doing.
Yeah, but
fairly graphically.
Yeah, enough to where like what she's doing in that panel.
There's no suggestion. Obviously, it's not detailed.
I have never until this comic. I've never read a comic where it was like, holy, like I feel like I'm watching
I'll be in my bunk.
Here. What are you reading out there?
Nothing. Go away. Yeah, you wouldn't want to pull this one out on
my
a
wife's
plane.
like, hey, what comics are you reading this week? I was like, just some Conan.
Nothing. Go away. Of course, it's going to be the worst page.
Yeah.
The page is the most explicit or whatever.
Let me see what you're reading.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. Forward. It's all frozen. It froze. God damn it. Yeah, but yeah, this is not one to read on a plane or like in front of your parents or at church or something. It's definitely one to, be careful where you're reading it, I guess. Unless you don't give a fuck. And then, show it on the bus or whatever. Who cares? But, yeah. So anyway, he's like, he finally gets out of the water, gets onto the ice, like side or whatever of it. And he's like, which you will pay, you hear me? And she's like telling him like, come on, and he's like, fuck it. And he climbs the side of this fucking ice wall, and makes it to the top. And she's like ready for him, like just waiting there and like kind of looking like, okay, like we're gonna get it on now is what she kind of looks like. But she says, basically, my father, he only drinks from the torrents that flow from heroes' blessed victories. So, those born to kill were warriors worthy of me. So like this was like the last, if you make it out of this cave, you are officially, worthy of me, meaning I guess, to be with her. But then,
it's not going to happen because we're going to take out your heart.
Yeah, and so the funny thing is, all those other guys, they made it this far, and they still they still didn't get their hearts eaten or whatever. They didn't, it didn't work, I guess, or maybe those are the ones that got their hearts eaten. They threw them back in. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know for sure.
We don't explain it, but basically that is like the end of that issue. And then we get the third one, and the third one, it starts right there, right when he gets up out of the cave, and we see her brothers kind of magically appear. Her brothers being the giant polar bears with the tusks on the sides of their head, on either side of their head, and they talk, which is interesting. They kind of like they talk to her. It's kind of weird. Like you see them like they kind of look like they're talking to her and saying stuff and like are very excited about this man that they're about to tear his heart out. And the interesting thing that happens in this one, which didn't happen in the other one, is I feel like she's giving him a heart attack. All of a sudden in his body, it's like dum 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 dum, and it's like these dum dum like sounds are all over the page, and she's like, oh yeah, that's your heart, and like this, I'm gonna eat it, and then my brothers are here, they're gonna tear it out, or my dad's gonna eat it or whatever. Like, you're just food for my dad. And she actually gives a history of her dad while he's like writhing on the ground in pain from the way his heart's beating. And so we get like, oh, her dad was the first giant, and then like, or the first, frost giant.
First giant.
Yeah, he's the greatest or whatever. And then
and this is cool. So like, Ymir, he creates himself, and then he's like, oh, he has children, but then all of these children are
they get jealous.
Yeah, fuck you, Dad.
And then they cut off his head, and then the blood is like what gave birth to people and like the world, like this universe or whatever and everything. And so like, yeah, it's what created the earth of the men or whatever is his blood. And so, but basically he, in order to, I guess, get food and sacrifices and stuff, he is given hearts of the like best warriors or whatever out of everybody. And so, that's basically, he's invited you to my father's banquet is what she tells Conan. And it's like the biggest thing ever, So it's such a wonderful,
this is an honor.
An honor. Yeah. That's what, yeah. So, and the whole time we're seeing like, don't, like his heart is beating out of his chest. And this is great. He's like, and he's like, starts to turn over, and she's like, what? Your heart, it resists. Impossible. And then the bears are like, "Arr!" And then this is the only thing I didn't like about this comic is the tom, like the beating, gets bigger and bigger, and it starts to cover up the artwork, I think, a little too much.
A little too much, yeah.
They should have. This page is okay, but the next page, I think, it's just like over it. It's like so much you can't really see what's going on. They should have put it like in the little margins or whatever or something. But either way, he gets up and she's like, "No, you can't resist. Obey, mortal, obey." And he just starts standing up. She's like, "What the fuck?" And he just overcomes her will. And then the bears attack him and he attacks the bears back. And he fucking kills those bears. Let's put it that way. He just starts fucking... And once again, it's hard to tell exactly what's going on because there's so much tom-toms all over the place. But basically, he's cutting their face and their necks and their arms and shit off and everything. And he's going all out on them. And then what's left is her. She wakes up because this whole time, I guess him fighting the magic kind of put her in like a weird, like it hurt her mind.
Yeah.
Because he was under her spell and he was resisting. So like I guess maybe that the wavelengths hurt her or whatever back. I don't know exactly, but they make it seem like she was passed out for a hot second while that fighting was going on. And then she wakes up like, "What?" And then all of a sudden, Conan. And she's like, "What did you do?" And she sees the brothers are slain. And he's just like, "Rah!" He just runs at her. And she's like, "No, back, deadly. I'm a goddess." And he's just running at her yelling. And she's like, "Don't touch me, no." And then he grabs her. He grabs her tunic, just like in the other one, her loincloth. And then she yells, "Oh, Father, save me," right when he's about to grab her like body. And then a lightning bolt comes down and strikes the tip of the mountain right where he was about to grab her. And then she is gone. But Ymir appears.
But he appears.
Right in front of the mountain. You get to see him, his whole headless body. And he just like grabs her, saves her, and then disappears with her, basically.
Conan tries to jump out at him.
Yeah, and it doesn't do, like, he disappears before Conan jumps. You see the lightning go, but he like actually wields his sword like he's gonna fucking kill Ymir.
It very much reminded me of the third Thor movie, Ragnarok, where Hulk's jumping at what's the big horned guy? I'm blanking.
The big horned guy.
Yeah, he comes to bring Ragnarok to Asgard.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm blanking. Yeah, but yeah, it reminded me of that. It's like this little, he's really big and buff, obviously. But
yeah,
this little version jumping up this like god
giant
creature,
god or whatever, just demon. Yeah, but yeah. So, but I think to me, this isn't like him trying to actually kill Ymir because he's like level-headed or something. It's because he's driven so mad right now by the like lust and the betrayal or whatever of that lust, and then
the killing of the brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
He was just in a fight. So
yeah, so like I think he's not of his mind right now. He's so like driven crazy by this witch, and then so he jumps into the. It looks like a canyon, but what happens is the lightning strikes, and then we're back kind of where we were before, and then all of a sudden, Conan is found by the Aesir, and they're like, "Oh my God, we found him!" And then they're like, "He's back with us." And they thought he was dead, but he punches one of them as they try to revive him. He's like, "What?" And then they're like, "What? Like, what's wrong? Why did you come all the way out here?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, basically they tell him he thinks he's been gone for 2 days. He's like, "A woman appeared after the battle. I chased her into the mountains for 2 days." And like, the battle took place this morning, Conan. Like, you're like a couple miles just further than this battle or whatever, but we followed your tracks or whatever. You must be delirious with fever. A woman in battle, haha, or whatever. And then one of them says, "Have you seen the goddess?" And then they bring up, "Oh yeah, that's Ymir's daughter." And then he says, and then they're like, "Oh come on, did you really see that?" And then he's like, "I am thirsty. Please give me something to drink." And he reaches up with his hand, and his hand has her loincloth in it.
Cloth in it again.
So. Yeah, basically they were like, "Oh my God." And then we see the daughter is now like, we cut to her sitting very like broken up and crying, kind of like she has tears in her eyes because she's like traumatized, I guess, by the fact that she didn't get to kill this guy or whatever.
Yeah, that she resisted her.
He resisted her.
He resisted her.
And like
her magic and stuff.
Yeah, so like she's just kind of like freaking out that happened.
Her brothers died. I mean, yeah, it was a lot.
But yeah, that's what it is. That's the end of it. And so with that, what did you think, John? What did you think about the two, and what would you give? I guess give both of them, but give them in general.
So I mean, they're both good, and they both told a great story. I liked the second one a little more, not because of the sexuality per se, but I mean it.
I think it really like made the story work even more. Like,
yeah,
I will say that like as the reader, you're like because she's actually doing these sexual things, you're like,
damn.
Oh, I feel what Conan's
like,
feeling,
yeah,
or whatever. Like,
but the main point of it, the second part that I like, or the second story I like a little more than the first, is that most of it is from her perspective.
Yes.
So you're getting like she's watching the battle, and then like she's talking about and then like this game that she's playing with Conan, and I mean you don't really get until like halfway through the second one any of Conan's inner dialogue of what's going on, but like I really liked like her showing that she is putting on a show and putting on this charm and this magic on Conan because of the ultimate goal. Not that that's not, you don't get that from the other one, but I just really like that perspective. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, the other one was just kind of like a story perspective. Like you're the narrator or whatever watching this. Yeah, or you're the reader just reading the story of these two characters running or whatever. But like this was like her inner dialogue of like, I'm teasing him. I'm trying to get him so like hot for me that he will walk into fucking hell and then climb out for me, and then that's when I know his heart is for my dad or whatever, kind of thing, that he's worthy of it or whatever. And so I mean with that, what would you give? I guess I don't know if we rate each one.
I don't know if we rate each one or we just say I mean, so the second one I think is better overall. But
as a
story, but the art is good in both of them.
Yes.
The story is solid in both of them. I don't know, it's weird to say. I mean, if anything,
I guess I would say rate this one since they're both the same story, and we already read the other one. We're comparing them, and we like the other one. We'd say I think we gave the other one like an 8 when we first did the like whole book or whatever.
I would say 7 to 8. So 7 for the Dark Horse Marvel. To the 8 for
I gave it an 8. I gave the other one. I think you gave it a 7 last time. So.
Yeah, and then that's what I would do with this. Like, I mean, it's pretty badass, and it's not. I mean, not that it's not like I feel like maybe it's too low. It was really good. I'm saying it's not like not a perfect comic, but it's specifically that type of story. Yeah. But it was really good.
Yeah, and I've read they actually in the back of these posts. They have the actual story, so you can read in the back of each of these comics. They have like the section that follows the area that you're of the story from Robert E. Howard, so you can actually read the original and compare it to what's going on. Once again, his original is much shorter than like a 3-issue comic or whatever. It's actually like 4 pages.
Yeah, it's a real short story.
Yeah, so like if you read it, the suggestion of all these things are there. But and that's why Marvel can or DC, or Dark Horse can, suggestively have some of this stuff, and he's not saying she's masturbating, but he's implying that she's tantalizing him and being teasing him and all that stuff, and so sexually obviously, and so like he's lustful after her, right?
Yeah.
So like this just made it so much more like impactful, I thought, and then the art is fucking fantastic. He looks so badass at the beginning of this comic. Like I couldn't get over like how badass.
Yeah, and like you said, even Heimdall's.
Yes, Heimdall looked badass. But the fact that he rips Heimdall's fucking jaw off is like the craziest thing. Like I was like, oh my god,
yeah,
it's so cool. And then also she adds in like, and they kind of say this in this story because I read the story in the back of this just to see like what was different because this has a little bit of difference in it, but like. The whole like lake and stuff that's not really in the main story. She talks about like the other heroes past and stuff like that. So I think that's what they were going for with that whole like ice lake where the other heroes are down there or the other warriors. And and he has to fight them off. But like that interpretation of it, I thought was very cool. I'd say the only thing that like I could give or take in this one is the polar bears. maybe if they didn't look just like polar bears, maybe they had like polar bear heads or something, or like they were some kind of, they were literally just like large polar bears. And then they have like the tusks on either side of their shoulders. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's okay.
I would say like I prefer the look of the frost giants as being actual like giant trollish creatures in the first one.
Yeah.
Although I really like the big polar bears too. This one, I think we kind of mentioned like this one pulls a lot of reference to like Frazetta work.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even they have he has that one I can think of right now too. Is like Conan with like these two gigantic polar bears. I think it might be.
That might be why.
Story.
That might be why. It's not Conan. That's called the Veneerman.
Okay. Well, it's
Yeah.
I apologize. Yeah, I don't remember specifically, but I can see the image.
He's got a thing that he paints, and it's muscly guys in frosty areas with babes and swords
and giant polar bears.
So, yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. It's probably why he did it. He's probably like, you know what, I've always wanted to draw giant polar bears, just like Frazetta did or whatever. But
he should just give him polar bears. He should just made like two teeth stick out. Really big.
made him look a little more ferocious than polar bears. Or like their skulls are like sunken in or something, so they look evil or some shit. I don't know. Could have done something a little bit more. But that's my only gripe with this one is like, other than that, I like everything else about it immensely.
Oh, we know you like it.
Yeah, I've read this multiple times. But I mean, come on, we're all adults. Obviously, don't give this one to a 13-year-old. Give this, this is your 17-year-old comic reader.
You give the other one to your kiddo, and then this is your
when they get old enough, you give them this one and you say, here you go. Are we kidding? This is nothing compared to anything you find on the internet nowadays. But
no,
it was definitely, I liked it because it was so suggestive and it was so like,
yeah, it added.
I'll say it's erotic or whatever. It's got its place, I think, and it because it wasn't what's it called, over. I don't think it was overly though. It made its point, and then where it needed to, it would get more explicit or whatever.
Exactly, it's erotic, not graphic in what they're showing.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, I think the better way to put it, it's not like some porno mag or something, or like there's definitely adult comics that you can get that are like, we're showing everything, and it's like, all right, like this is kind of throws me off. Why are we reading this? Is it for the story? No, this is actually for the story.
This is suggestive poses that enhance the story, and you get what is going on, but you don't actually like. It's not hardcore,
right? And we're me and John are saying this explicitly because we're not creeps, all right? We're not.
Yeah. We can both say we are both attracted to females, and everybody likes who they like. But yeah, this one appeals to us a little bit more.
yeah, this is for the ladies, or ladies who like ladies, guys who like ladies, or people who like ladies. So, but I just said like this is like if you're gonna read an erotic book or whatever, like the romance novels or whatever.
Yeah, this would be one.
This is the guy's version.
This is so let's say you don't want to like read an actual like long book on it. If you want like a visual representation with some words, then you go pick up the graphic novel.
That's why I was like, it's an erotic book, not a graphic sexual book.
Exactly.
So we've harped on this too much, probably.
We're just trying to say we're not creeps.
We're not pervs. We're not pervs. I promise. But anyway, this is, like I said, from an indie company called Ablaze, and they're doing a bunch of different stories. Not all of them are hits, but I'm buying all of them because I want to support the idea that, like, okay, we're going to do our own thing. So, but each one of these is like by a separate author. Usually or at least so far, since this one, because I think this one was a big hit, they've been doing like single authors and artists like on it. So like this guy will tell his vision and this person will tell their vision of the story. So like it's been nice to have that kind of on all of these different Conan stories. So but yeah, with that, what are we reading next week, John?
Ghost Rider: Road to Damnation,
which should be very fun. We have not read any Ghost Rider.
No, I've never read any.
And it's a character I've never really read before. So
I've read some team ups I think before with him, but none specifically. The only other thing I know of Ghost Rider is going to be the Nicolas Cage films. So
fantastic! I bet that's what everybody wants you to remember from Ghost Rider, the Nick Cage movies. But well, if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planestrainsandcomicbooks, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget to check out our Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube channel for exclusive content.
Exclusives.
So yeah, we'll catch you and Ghost Rider on the next one.
Bye.